Okay, here we are. This is David, the Georgia photographer, and I'm attempting a live stream. The last time I did this, it ended in horrible failure. So tonight, I hope I don't start dropping frames like mad. I have a drop frame counter right down here, so I'm going to keep an eye on it. And so far, it's showing 0. Maybe we'll make it through a stream. Anyway, let's see. Oh, where's my chat window? What did I do with it? Let's see. Docs. There's chat. Okay, now bring our chat over. Well, that's not kind of what I wanted, but I'll take it. Let's see here. It's doing stuff to me here. Wow, it's made my chat super wide and super short. Let's get it pulled back over to where it's reasonable. Ah, there it goes. I can only do so much with the chat. Anyway, let me see here. I'm gonna throw a comment in there. Let's see. Brian Foster, Bass Angler, and Hassan are already here. Nice. Good to see you guys. Today, what I was going to talk about was how Nikon is kind of coming around, okay? And I'm kind of impressed by them now, just to be honest with you. The whole thing about Nikon not supporting their user base is kind of out now, because they literally just released a firmware update for the Z50, and I looked it up. Let me just do this. Let me shorten this chat window a little bit. There you go. As you can see, they released the Z50 on October 10th of 2019. That's actually, it's like 3.5 years ago at this point. So that being known, it's really, really impressive for them to continue to release firmware updates. Back in the day, and supposedly they just released one for the D850, but that is not confirmed. I'll probably need to poke that into my Google search box here. Let's just do that right now. Let's see what it says. Jumping into the firmware. Oh, that didn't work at all. Don't know. Let's see. I'm trying to see the date on some of this. There's no date. 3 weeks ago. Yeah, they came out with a firmware update, 1.3 for the D850 3 weeks ago. That ain't bad. And that camera is, 6-7 years old at this point. That's impressive. Okay, let's catch this up. Greg Cassidy's in the house. How you doing, Greg? Nice to see you. Let's see here. But currently, Bass Angler was gracious enough to send the lens back. He's been using it for the past few months to shoot eagles with out in Arkansas. He's got bald eagles come through there periodically. So I sent him my 500 to test a little while on his D500. But he sent it back. I've got a project coming up next week, actually, to where I'm going to hopefully shoot some exotic wildlife with this system. And I really like the Z50. Before, it was okay. It didn't do too bad. You would miss shots, but it just wasn't. It wasn't great on tracking. But now, they've improved a lot of the autofocus functions in this little camera. So at this point, I'm kind of hopeful that it's going to do, really well. Now, it does only have like a 21 megapixel sensor, 20.9, 20.8. I don't remember exact numbers. But this, my lens, I see you, Bass Angler. I'm on to you. But this little D50, the reason I like it is the size. Look how tiny it is. Now, I wish I could get an extended grip frame. I have considered making one a couple of times, milling one out of aluminum that would extend this grip down and basically come over at least to where the tripod stud is, where I could attach to that. And that way I could like have the full grip because my little finger doesn't grip. It's not a deal breaker. You just kind of get used to it. The camera kind of sits on your little finger with a big hand. It works. It's not too bad, but it's just small. But even with this tiny camera, my knuckle doesn't hit the adapter, the FTZ adapter. My finger still clears it. On Sony cameras, my finger would hit the lens, and it was very annoying. It wasn't like a technical deal breaker, but it was really annoying on that A7 II. But on here, even with this tiny little camera, my knuckle still clears the lens mount, basically. Now, if I had like probably the 85 f1.4, f1.2, whatever, you know, some kind of lens that immediately gets a lot bigger coming out, I would probably have issues. But for this system, with the F-mount glass, this works shockingly well. Now, that's going to be my wildlife photo rig, as you see it. So for this trip, I have scaled back my camera gear even further. I'm going to go all out and not even take a second camera this time. Yeah, you heard me. This is a Nikon only trip. All the Leicas are not going. My general photography lens, I'm finally going to mount and use this little kit lens. Everybody that I've talked to has praised the kit lens to high heaven. Especially Aaron, and I think even Phil bragged on it a lot. Great little lens, and I have yet to use it. So I'm going to use this as my general, like if I'm doing maybe street photography and helo or whatever. We're going to Hawaii. So this is going to be the general purpose walk around lens that I'm just going to get photos of the vacation and of like cool, you know, buildings, urban decay, architecture, what have you. I'll use this. All right. And then, well, lens got popped off. For landscapes, I'm taking this tiny little guy with the great big lens hood. This is the 10 to 20 millimeter F mount. This is the one I normally shoot video with, but it's 10 millimeters on an APS-C. That's like 15 on a big camera. So this is a really wide lens. This would do really well for landscape photos. So if I'm going to try and do some landscape stuff, I'm going to just take this with me. I'm probably not going to worry with filters. You know, I don't have any of the gradient filters where like you do the sky darker than the foreground. So like sunrise and sunset photos probably won't be a thing. But if I want to get like a late afternoon shot of a mountain range or something, you know, you get it. You know, this will work. It'll give me something interesting to work with. And this lens produces really good results. So pick up my drop lens cap. I was going to pack a fourth lens, which would be a macro, but I've decided against it. I don't shoot enough macro photography to warrant carrying it, and it just makes the bag heavier. I've come to accept that it's you can carry contingency gear for everything, because like right behind this camera is literally 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 lenses stacked on these little shelves right behind the camera. So, you know, I could take too much gear so easily, and I have in the past. And I finally learned my lesson that taking extra gear just makes your pack heavier. So the bag this time is pretty light. I mean, it does have 3 lenses in it. And I've got batteries and, you know, that kind of jazz, and a battery charger. I think I took a memory card wallet. Yeah, I got my little Rocket Airy thing, you know. Yeah, I got my little hard shell. I got a Pelican brand memory card wallet. It's got my little memory cards in it, you see. Oh, sorry. I forgot that's a manual focus lens. I have the 24 millimeter on here. Again, there you go. If I hold it back here, it's in focus. But I'm running manual focus so that the camera don't focus hunt, which it would do if I was letting it autofocus, because it's the SL2. This is what I'm using for my video camera. Since the Z50 is now in that bag, which is what I normally do these streams with, I have dropped 0 frames. We might actually have a successful stream tonight. Let's see who else jumped in while I've been here. Scott Patterson. Hey, how you doing? Greg Cassidy. Oh, I done said hi to you, Greg, haven't I? Love to hear it's the all Nikon trip. Yeah, 1 camera, 3 lenses, 2 of which are F-mount. Oh, but I haven't got this case out in some time. Got a Pelican case here. Let's see here. If I crack it open in this Pelican case. There we go. I didn't know that was in here. There's a USB cable. What kind? Micro USB. Okay. And a toboggan for some reason. Smells kind of sour. The 200 millimeter micro Nikkor. I have one. This lens, if you're shooting like postage stamps, I'm not joking here. There's whatever you call the postage stamp collecting people, stamp collectors, they got a name for that. Or numismatists, people that collect coins. This camera lens is the lens to use to photograph that stuff. It does an amazing job. I used it for product photography. Just back up way across the room and shoot with it. This entire giant band of rubberized area is the focus ring. All of that is focus. It's incredible. Currently, it is set to manual mode, so I can move it. If I set it to auto, it engages the gear drive mechanism with the little screw for the camera to drive it. And you can still turn it, but you can feel it back driving all that mechanism, which isn't supposedly good for it. This is a wonderful piece of glass if you like to do macro, though. Incredible resolution. But yeah, I don't get that lens out hardly at all anymore. Ever since I got rid of all of my DSLRs. That's a problem. Now I don't have a Nikon DSLR at all. All right, let's put that back on the shelf. Let's see here. The hat's in the house. How you doing? I've been liking your Instagram. I wish I... Philatelist. Okay. Philatelist. Which one is it? Philatelist or philatelist? Philatelist. I never was keen on stamp collecting. My dad always said that philately would get you nowhere. Like flattery. Ha 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 ha. I get it now. Let's see here. Though he does have a lisp. That's a good one. But that's the kit. I'm taking the Z50, the 500 millimeter phase Fresnel, the little 18 to 55 kit lens, and the 10 to 20 millimeter, and the FTZ adapter. That's it. I'm going to go light. Last year, when I went out of the country, I took that camera and lens, the big lens to do wildlife with. I took the little Z50 kit lens as a backup, and I took my CL, like a CL with the whatever small lens at the time I was using, probably 35 millimeter or something. I took that as my camera that I was general shooting with. And so I still had 2 cameras, you know, redundant bodies and all that. And it just wasn't super, like, I just lugged all that gear around for nothing. So I'm not taking it this time. I'm just going to take my chances. And there is a Best Buy in Hilo. So, you know, I can most likely get another Nikon camera if this one gets broken. So the trip won't be a complete failure. And if nothing else, we can run over to Oahu. It's a small flight. It's like 400 miles to Oahu. You know, and Honolulu is a big city. They'll have stuff. So, you know, I am not completely like out of pocket to where if you was going to be in some small town in Costa Rica and your camera's broken, you're now doing something else. But yeah. And then, let's see here. What was that? What page am I on? Mirrorless cameras. Yeah. Let me just jump back over to this. And as you can see here, they have major Nikon autofocus enhancements. January 24th of 2023. It gave us eye detection autofocus during video recording. That wasn't a thing before. Apparently, it would just detect your face. It has improved eye detect performance for auto area autofocus, which is what you use when you do video. It's the focus mode they recommend for video. Improved the refresh rate for the focus points displayed in live view during subject tracking and face eye detection autofocus. And I watched a video about this part. And apparently they have two different engineering teams working on the whole focus system. One talks about the tracking boxes and the people that wrote the code to do the tracking boxes and how they move around and track the person. Well, that team done a jam up job of getting ahead of the curve, you might say, so that when the focus points move, the new focus point detected is in one of the boxes now, instead of it picking one and focusing, and then the boxes move to catch up, which is what it was doing apparently. But now they've got all that fixed. And you can see these updates, they come out normally. Well, there wasn't but one. See here, they had one in October of 22, and then they had another little one come out. Well, this ain't a Z50, that's a Z9, that's Z6 and Z7. Here's Z50. October 20th of 22, we had some more autofocus stuff happened. They made the autofocus better then, and then a year ago, or a year before that, they had better autofocus. They keep improving the autofocus on the Z50. Every one of these Z50 firmware updates is improving the autofocus. And it's like getting a new camera for the same money. I mean, they are fiduciarily, if that's the right word, if that is even a word, obligated to provide you with zero firmware updates if the camera works as advertised out of the box. They don't have to keep improving it. They're doing that just to show that they want to support their user base. That's the only motivating factor. There is no reason for them to do that, because by giving me new firmware for my Z50 and making it work better means I'm not going to buy a new camera body now. I'm going to keep using it. So that's not to promote sales of new bodies. What it is it's building customer loyalty, though. And that's amazing, because by doing that, I will look at Nikon when I get another camera. Whenever one comes out that I'm looking, if I'm looking to upgrade from this one at some point in the not too distant future, then I will go to Nikon first. And they know that. By doing this, they've supported me over the years with carrying this little camera around. And now, when I go to get another one, that's what it's going to be. I'm going to look to them. Ray Soldano's jumped in the chat. Y'all be warned, Ray has a Z9 and he knows how to use it. So he even says Z9 ultimate street photography camera. Dude, it don't have a shutter, so it don't make shutter noise. So when he takes pictures, nobody knows it. The camera takes phenomenal photos, by the way. It's a stamp flare. Dave, don't go breaking your camera to get a new one. Ooh, excuse me. I'm talking too fast. I'm not taking in enough oxygen. Yeah, really. I don't want to break my camera, because then I have to buy another one. And I would rather buy the new camera and then not use the old one anymore. The hat says, the customer loyalty really is a strong point for Nikon, though. Hence why you can still mount F-mount lenses even now on their new mount system camera I just added. He makes a really valid point. To be fair, Fuji are the same, I think. Yes, they are. Honestly, Nikon has taken a page out of the Fujifilm playbook, is what they've done. Because with my X-T3, I got regular firmware updates that made the camera a lot of times have functions that it didn't even have before. It would do new stuff that I couldn't do before. That was the wonderful thing about Fujifilm. Now, the only reason I stepped away from it is because I got into these Leicas and I started shooting my street photography and like general landscape, urban decay, whatever you call all that stuff I do with them. And it just sat on the shelf, and I hung on to it for a little while, and for my little girl to shoot with. But she's not really into the body cameras like I'm using. She got a Fujifilm Instax and has been in love with it. She got the Instax wides, about the size of an original Polaroid, big film. And she loves taking photos with that thing. So she's got the camera she likes. So I just didn't have any reason to have it. I wasn't using it, so I sold it. Sold it, I think, to Roberts. That'd do you right. I'm talking a lot. I keep my throat wet. The XT2 updated firmware with the improved autofocus and eye tracking is really slick. You got an XT2. Let's just put that into the search box here. And let's put in Fujifilm XT-2 release date. Let's see what day they launched the XT2. 7 July 2016. That camera is going on 9 years old, and they're still giving you firmware updates. That's building customer loyalty. That's just doing a service for their valued customers because they want to support their user base. That's all it is. If you noticed, Fujifilm kind of blazed that trail. Is the God's honest truth, because Nikon up till recently, you would get 1 or 2 firmware updates max. Like my D810 might have had 2. I remember doing 1 or 2, and that was it. Over all those years I had that D810, a couple. My machinist Keith, he bought a D5, and Ray Solano helped him get the firmware update in it because he bought the newer memory card it uses, and it still had the old firmware and wouldn't read the new memory card. So Ray helped him get the firmware on a card in the camera and get the camera updated so he could use his new cards, which, thank you, Ray. That was a real big help for Keith. But, it came with just a couple of updates, and that's their flagship. So, yeah, it's just incredible how they support the industry now. Vintage Vantix. How you doing? Thank you for stopping into the stream. Tamron needs to get the 35 to 150, 2 to 2.8 with native Z, and even for your Leica. I think that would be an insanely useful street photography lens. I do too. Especially on the little CL crop sensor, because that would be like a 50 to 225 millimeter. That's your intermediate zoom, and it would do that would be what you would use for like senior portrait shoots outdoors, what they call that, location shoots, because you got ambient light that's strong enough, and you don't have to do fill flash, unless you just need it. But that would be a wonderful general purpose lens. Yeah, it's like a one size fits all kind of thing. There was a 20 millimeter to something came out the other day that was really interesting to me, and I don't remember what it was now. Ray says Sony only right now, sad face. If they do anything next, it'll probably be Nikon. They seem to support the Nikon mount pretty hard. The Sigma supports the L mount and Sony first, and then they'll do Nikon and Canon. But yeah, Tamron seems to want to support the Nikon mount pretty quickly. Supposedly Nikon released the specs to the Z mount so that third-party lens manufacturers can do that, didn't they? Let's just put that in. That's 21. August of 22, here's an article that says, let me just switch over to that. And let's see. Previously reported Camland manual focus. Manual focus don't matter. That's just the manual. I mean, they know the mount mechanical specs. They don't have to have the technology to be able to make it autofocus. I jumped you over unnecessarily. My bad. Thought I had something there. But supposedly Nikon was going to release the technical information so that Tamron and Sigma and all those companies could actually make lenses to autofocus with the Z mount. I don't know that they did that. Do you know, Ray? No one sent out an invite for this. Ron, thank you for stopping in, Ron. And the reason I did not send the invite was because of what happened last time. Had it went to dropping frames, I was just going to shut it down and delete what had showed up. But it's streaming great tonight. I've got 0 drop frames so far, so it's working perfectly today. That's why I didn't do the invite. I'm sorry. I don't even know how many people have joined in. I'm actually in OBS here, so I can't see like how many people are connected to the stream or any of that. I just have the chat and what's being streamed out to you guys, and I have the option bars down at the bottom. It shows my audio level and all that junk, but yeah, I just know that there's probably 8 or 9 people that have jumped in here. Let's see here. The hat says, I don't think Nikon had officially opened up the platform for third parties. I just thought they were all reverse engineered. Okay, that's probably it. Because I know that even Canon was having that problem, if you want to call it that. They were sitting on their RF mount tech too, and they weren't sharing it. You know, and he was cruising the net and happened to see it. Nice. Thank you, Ron. I appreciate you jumping in. Yeah. I seen Phil had one like 2 hours after he had it, where he bought another lens. I haven't bought a lens lately. I did buy an antenna tuner. It's behind the camera over there. But it's a manual antenna tuner from Tentec from, I think I looked up the date, and it was made around 77 or 1978. And it's in like new condition. It works perfectly. I set it up over here and used it for a while. Let's see. I sent a picture of it to my buddy down in Trenton. So let me see here. Yeah. Here's what we'll do. I'll get it into the screen where you guys can see it too. Let me get it. I have to email it to myself because I have an Apple phone and a PC computer, and they do not talk. Let's see here. That'll do. Let's just send something small. I'll get around to that in a second. But let's see. Ray, you still convincing? I mean, you still need convincing to get the Z70. Ray, order the 70-200 S lens. Ray, order it. This is your conscience speaking. Let me jump back in here. Okay, come on, load. I know you're there somewhere. There it is. Now, let's download it. To downloads. Save. Okay. Oops. Wrong screen. There we go. Now, I'll switch over and show you. That is the tuner I bought on top of my Tentec Argonaut 5. This is a small radio meant to go out in the field or be mounted in a vehicle. That's kind of the engineering behind this radio. It doesn't have a few of the functions that I really enjoy, like it doesn't have an RF gain. I like having RF gain control. But I bought this tuner because it's brand matched to the Argonaut. I wanted a Tentec tuner to go with my Tentec radio. So I found it on eBay. It was a good deal, like $70, and it works perfectly. It's in like new condition to be like a 1977 model antenna tuner. I used it earlier today and made several contacts all over the Midwest to northeastern United States. But yeah, there we go. That's the antenna tuner picture. All right, back to the cam. But I I've really gotten back into my amateur radio. It's kind of cutting into my photography. What's that? I hate these cups that spit on you. I got drops on my lenses now because of it. Got it. Okay, let's see. What do we got here? Ray says, nope, I will get it. Just depends on laptop purchase time frame. Yeah, you need to leverage that whole laptop thing that you was talking about and get the 70 to 200. I mean, either that or that 35 to 150. Actually, that won't do what you need. You need that f2.8 glass. Woody Mallory has joined the chat. How you doing tonight? I'm glad you're here. Now, see here. We're missing... there's one other person that normally tries to hit the chat or the streams, and I miss them every time because I don't warn everybody first. Let's see. And I still dropped 0 frames. This is going well today. Another thing I done was I turned off the TV in the living room. We normally run it with one of those YouTube videos that has like mood music on it. You know, it's got like pictures of Bali and it plays like real low, quiet, soothing music. We use it as a kind of a decoration that way. And that consumes bandwidth, but I turned it off because Teresa's not here right now. So since she's not here, and the cat, I don't know if y'all can see, is asleep on the bed. There she is right there. So no one's to watch it since she's not watching cat TV, as I showed on my short today. I turned that on and she was like, I was like, I got to get a video of this. I didn't even know people made cat TV videos until just a little while back when my daughter told me. I thought that was funny. Segue back to cameras. That's rather cool. A friend of mine just mounted his FT817 into his van. I don't have any Yaesu radios anymore except the FT736R, which is right there. And it's the VHF UHF radio. It has, currently this one has the modules in it. It's a modular radio. It looks like an HF rig, but it's meant to do satellite. So it's got a bunch of controls for satellite operations that I don't normally use. But it is all mode. So you can do Morse code. You can do single sideband, FM, digital modes. It's got all that. But typically we use it. Currently it's listening to the 1 1/4 meter repeater that my buddy Roger put together. And you heard it ID at the top of the hour. At the top of the hour, it calls out the time. He's got it set in the repeater to do that. But if I key this mic, he's probably listening. He monitors it. So I'm not going to key the mic and like get him involved just to have to step back away because I can't do both. I can't serve both masters. So I'll talk to him later, when I get done with the stream. But yeah, it's got like 2 meter, 1 1/4 meter, 70 centimeter, and 23 centimeter in it. That's a microwave band, 1.2 gigahertz. So I have never had a radio that would do 1.29, was it 1296 is the frequency, 1.296 gigahertz. But yeah, I've never had a radio that would do that. I don't have an antenna currently, so I can't turn it on, but I use the 1 1/4 meter and the 2 meter a good bit. We do some sideband 2 meter occasionally as well, but it's neat. Yeah. But that's the only Yaesu radio I own. The rest of them are either Tentec or I got a bunch of QRP radios that are made by various American manufacturers. I try to buy American radios only because I just want to support American craftsmen and provide for them a means of existing, because Americans like to do the same stuff that Japanese manufacturers or Chinese manufacturers or German manufacturers, because that's the Leica camera I'm filming on, but I just, for some reason, I have this soft spot in my heart. So I've got like a Pentec radio. It's made by Ham up in like Pennsylvania, and I've got Electcraft radios. I don't even know where Electcraft is at. I've got 1 or 2 of theirs. Bunch of Tentecs. I have a bunch of Tentec radios, and they're out of business pretty much. But I've wandered down a deep rabbit hole of radio. Back to cameras. Now, let's see. But the FT817 is a nice radio. I just don't have any. I just never got into their radios. I don't, not because I hate them or anything. I just don't have any. Hammerhead isn't your thing, but I do appreciate the geekery. I love Morse code. Is the 35 to 150 a Tamron lens? Yes, it is. Ray was talking about it earlier. I heard about it last week, and I am interested, especially in L mount. That would be a sweet general purpose walk around lens. Yep, f2.8 to f2.8 for Sony. I think it will be an F mount version, but if it is slower. Man, I don't want to make it slow. I would like 35 millimeter at f2. Dude, that's like Leica Summicron numbers. Dang, I don't want them to go slow. Bass Angler says, me too, I'm very patriotic. I'm a craftsman, so I like to support businesses that have craftsmen in them. And you have electronics engineers, and you have, techs building the radios, and I just want to support them. It's just me. It's not, like I said, I have. Let me get it loose here. This is an ICOM radio made in Japan. I'm not opposed to Japanese manufactured equipment. It's just, my HF rigs are all Tentec. I just love them. I don't know. I'm kind of stupid that way because, why would you buy radios from a company that's now defunct for all intents and purposes? The brand got bought by another person, but he's not currently building radios. So, he owns the brand. Yeah. Thing splashes on me every single time. Let's see. Should be a good sports photography lens. Is it long enough? I don't know if it's long enough. Ray likes the 300 millimeter focal length. I've noticed he gets into about that number a lot. Sometimes he'll use, if he's in indoors, the 70 to 200 works for him. Oh, Ron actually has a radio question. What is it? Let's see what he says. This is apparently becoming the WK4DS amateur radio live stream. That's my call sign. You can Google search that. The FCC has a database on it. It's normal. All amateurs in the United States, their information is basically public. It's just because of the FCC system. So, if you have a call sign, people can Google search and find your mailing address. That's the way it is. I have a RELM UHF mobile. Okay, I don't know what RELM means, but I know what UHF means. That's ultra high frequency. That's a 70 centimeter which is 440 megahertz in ham radio lingo. 23 centimeters the next step above that, which is that 1296 megahertz. When I key the mic, the radio will cycle off and on. Okay, typically what that means is you're dropping voltage. It could be the final transistors in the amplifier are blown up. They're shorted, so it's pulling a dead short, and that's pulling down the voltage coming into the radio, and that's making the radio shut off. That's RELM is the brand. Oh, okay. I've never heard of them. Realm. Interesting. But no, I don't think it's a relay, Bass Angler. It sounds like he's losing voltage. For the radio to shut off, he's dropping voltage. It'll go down below about typically 8.5 or 9 volts is the dropout voltage for a radio. Once it goes below that, the radio just turns off. 99% of them do that. And most likely you have a dead short in your amplifier, and that's why. And it may be, like Bass Angler said, when the transmit receive relay switches to transmit, then it completes that dead short, and that's why when you key it, it does that. Any number of things like that could do it. It could have a bad solder connection where the power is entering the radio, and when you key it, that solder joint heats up and opens, and it creates a high resistance environment, and the voltage drops low enough that it'll drop out, and then when it goes off, the heat goes away, makes better contact, comes back on, you know, sort of all sorts of things. Could it be the power supply? It could absolutely be the power supply. If your power supply doesn't have sufficient ampacity to deliver to the radio in the mode it's transmitting in, yeah, the power supply will go into what is known as a crowbar mode. And what it does is it crowbars the output voltage to 0 through a transistor to protect itself, to keep you from damaging it. And that usually happens if you have like a 12 amp power supply and you have a 100 watt radio connected to it. And you know, the 100 watt radio will normally pull about 20 amps at full transmit from the power supply. Like over here, when you saw that picture earlier, let me just see. Let me pull it back up. I don't know if there's enough detail there to see. Where's my photo? What did I do with it? There it is. Yeah, let me see if you can see it. Yeah, you can barely see it. Let me just switch back over. In this picture up above the radio back here, these two illuminated meters, that is an Astron 35 amp DC power supply right here. This is an amplifier beside it, and the power supply that feeds it is right above it here, and it provides 75 amps of continuous delivery to that 500 watt amplifier. This is a separate item from this. If I had a 12 amp supply here and I keyed it with 100 watts, this would shut itself down, turning the whole system off, and then the crowbar would shut down. Once you let off the key, it would detect that the output drain had went away, and it would basically reset, power back up, and then when you key the mic, it'll do it again. Yeah, if you don't have enough ampacity, amp delivery, they make the 12 volt supplies in all sorts of sizes. Like you can get them, I've bought them with like 3 amp and 8 amp and 12 amp. This one in the picture with the two illuminated meters is 35 amp. This one right here above the amplifier is 75 amp at 12 volts. That's a lot of draw. As you can see, there's these couple of cords plugged into this one from the front. This one here that the mouse is tracking on goes to the back of this Argonaut. It only draws, I don't know, 10 or 15 max. It doesn't draw much. But this radio right here that you can barely see a little bit of draws about 20. And there's one that's just out of frame here that this one's actually plugged into that draws a bunch more. But yeah, definitely hook it to a battery. A car battery will absolutely, if it's a good charged battery, will absolutely deliver plenty of ampacity. As long as your power cable came with the radio is the one you're using, it'll work. And you'll know then immediately. That will solve your problem. So no, it's interesting that we've wandered way off topic. I started out with a Z50 firmware update, and we've wandered completely into ham radio. Somebody mentioned at one point that I needed to do a ham radio live stream. I guess I do. I was going to set up a second camera right here looking at the radios, but I never did do it. So I've got a tripod and I've got a second camera now because I've got the SL2, and I tested it today. I took a battery and put in it, and then I've got a USB power pack plugged into the USB charge port, and I wanted to see how long it would run before that battery in the camera went dead, because I don't have the external power system like I do for the Z50. The Z50, let me unhook it here, has basically a computer power supply to this faux battery, and it just plugs into that port and it runs off of wall power all the time. But I don't have that for the Leicas, so I've just got a battery stuck in it, but it didn't run the battery down. It's actually drawing the power from the USB power pack to run the streaming camera. It actually worked. I was curious if it would be able to deliver the power it needed, but it's doing it. Cool radio help on this channel. Yeah. If you've got a 70 centimeter radio, that's a nice radio. I've got one. Is it down here? Is it in a box down here? It may be under the bed behind me. I got a stack of mobiles down there. One's a 2 meter, one's a 1.25 meter. I need to do something with them. But yeah, this is really nice if you're streaming, is to buy these little fake batteries, and it allows you to basically just power the camera directly off of wall power, so you don't ever have to worry about the battery going dead midstream. Yeah, these are worth their weight in gold. If you can get them off Amazon. That's where I think I bought this one. I'll plug it back in. It's just got a little connector that plugs into that power cord. I think it's a computer power supply. It's a nice little accessory. If you shoot like studio photos and your camera's on a tripod all the time, I would get one of those and hook it onto that tripod. Ron said he tried one of these fake batteries in a Z6 II and it would not work, and he had to send it back. Interesting. This one, let's see what brand this one is. This one, power connector, made in China. Literally what it says on it. It says EP-5G. It has no brand whatsoever. It's got nice little slots in the bottom so you can route the cable different ways and it won't like bind, as you can see. But the deal is you got to leave the door open on the camera anyway so the cord can drop out so you can plug it in. So why would you go to all that trouble? I guess for wire routing purposes. But I thought that's silly. But yeah, it doesn't even have a brand wrote on it. I see nothing there, nothing wrote on the wire. I'd have to look on my Amazon account and see what it's called. Okay, Ron said the following. Oh, wait. Ray said something first. He said, my fake one wouldn't work in the Z6 II, but it works in the D850, D800, and D500, which they all share a battery. And then Ron said the Z6 II will charge and run through the USB-C port on the camera. And he says, so I ordered a PD wall wart. What PD means is power delivery. It's not a charging power wall wart. It's a power delivery. It's meant for continuous usage. And they're different from just the charge ports like these. Like this would be, this would probably be considered a power delivery one. But they're bigger. They have they're larger capacity so that the draw coming into them won't burn up the output in them. But yeah. I think that one charges a ham radio battery or something. I have to look. I'm pretty sure it does. Yeah. Charges my 1.25 meter handheld. He says, there's something special about the Z lines, what Ron said. They don't like to work off of the fake battery. That's interesting. My Z50 works. It works with that one perfectly. Gives me no trouble. I use it when I do my live streams normally. Like I said, the only reason I'm not now is because I've got it packed up for that trip next week. We leave, I think, Tuesday. But I got to get all the stuff for the house sitter and everything squared away. We got a house sitter coming to sit with the dog and cat, so they'll have some friendship while we're here or while we're gone. But we're not gonna be gone long. It's actually quite a short trip. Fortunately, the house sitter is not a ham radio op, so all of my radio gear won't get used. Bass Angler says, Dave, I am neck deep in the station grounding rabbit hole. Oh, no, I do not think anyone truly knows. If you saw how crappy my grounding actually is back there. I desperately need to put ground braids or straps or whatever on that amplifier in Omni 6 because when I key that radio, it does weird crap with the amp. When you do 100 watts, it doesn't really do anything, but when you go to 500 watts, things start happening that you don't normally account for. 500 watts of RF does weird stuff, and I don't have a proper ground. Like, you need a ground rod just for your radio, and you want to run braided grounds instead of like solid conductors because they don't radiate RF. They're self-canceling. That's why they want to use braids. And you know, and it carries more current. But yeah, it's I need to do all that, and I haven't yet. Yeah, station grounding is a deep rabbit hole. Every one of those devices has a big old bond lug on the back of it for a reason. For a reason. Even that ancient one I bought has one. Ray says, because they are probably actively blocking it with the firmware, my Wasabi Power branded batteries that fit the Z9 would not power it. I did some digging and found that they had an updated version for the Z9. Interesting. Yeah, I do know that there's a chip in the batteries. I have known that for a while. Like, of course, this isn't a great example because this is a Leica SL2 battery, and you can only get these batteries from Leica. So there's no aftermarket currently for these. I've been looking. But, you know, it's a special shape battery for a specific camera. That's all we're talking about. And somewhere under this cover is a chip that tells the camera that this is a legit battery. I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing it through a couple of them contacts. And if you don't have the right stuff, they don't work. The camera will say, nope, incorrect battery or non-OEM. You know, it'll give you some kind of error and it won't work. So yeah, I wouldn't mind cutting one open at some point to see what's in there. But yeah, there'll be a little circuit chip. There'll be a tiny little circuit board with a chip or two on it that it's looking at. Probably a piece of RAM or something. Bass Angler says, I got a 10-foot tinned braided ground strap I'm not using if you need it. It's brand new. No, I just need... oh, Lord. I need patience and a lot of time, like a whole day, just to take this stack of radios apart, pull them out so I can get to the bottom ones properly, connect the bonds like they need to be, and then stack the upper stuff back on. I probably need to pull out the VHF rig, the Omni 7, this power supply, and the Polk audio speaker, and I could probably access the bottom half. But yeah, it would be an all-day affair to properly ground it. And I need enough to go down through the floor and out to a ground rod, which is yet to be driven. I'm grounding to the power pole ground rod, which is right over yonder. And that's probably enough to generate some kind of radiation. Yeah, you get it. 10 foot ain't enough. I need probably 30 or 40 feet of braid. Ron says, so I have some other tech question. All right, what you got, Ron? The hat says, with the Fuji batteries, the chip is linked to the temperature sensor and negotiates the charging current based on temperature. Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. That makes perfect sense. You know, it's monitoring the temperature of the battery, and as the battery heats up, it lowers the charge current to allow the battery to cool down so that you can overheat the battery and off-gas it, damaging the electrolyte. If the Z9 draws more current, it could be blocking aftermarket batteries to prevent overheating on the batteries, which can't handle the delivery. Possible. Oh. Excuse me. Are there any Mac people in here that can give advice on a Thunderbolt dock? I've never used a Thunderbolt dock. I've bought adapters that have allowed me to adapt the Thunderbolt port on mine to do all sorts of other stuff. Like currently, the one down in the machine shop, my workstation, my Thunderbolt port has an adapter that converts it to a LAN cable. So I'm running a LAN cable to my computer down there to get it off the Wi-Fi. Plus the LAN is a little faster. I've converted LAN ports to video outputs, but I've never docked through the Thunderbolt. They're all garbage. They work good for me for what I'm doing. They're all garbage. Ray would know. That's kind of his job. Well, what's your question, Ray? You got a couple people that are willing to give you some info. Yep, all of them. They're terrible across the board. Oh, he's got the M1 chip. He wanting to know if he's okay. In the IT department with IT Apple fanboys using them, and they still have issues. There was a time when Steve Jobs was alive that the MacBooks that we used in the shop never broke down. And I'll be honest with you, we're still using most of them. We've got them hooked to workstations throughout the office and out on the shop floor even. And they rarely ever fail. We had one on my operations director. He does the scheduling and stuff. His power charging port failed in his, and I think his is a 2014 model. We took it to a repair shop. They put a new charge port in it, and it's back in business. You know, the ones I have, there's one in that bag right behind the camera. It's a 2015 MacBook Pro. It still works good. It ain't as fast as the new ones, but it works. It works just fine. I haven't had to upgrade since 2015. You know, you cost average that over, let's see here, we're in 23 now. That's 8 years. So I paid a lot for it. They were almost $3,000 in 2015. So you divide that by 8 though, you know, you're looking at about $350 a year for a MacBook Pro. That ain't bad. And it still works. I've changed the battery out of it in it a time or two, but they just keep working. Ron says, well, that answers my question. The hat says, with mine, if you plug the USB-C in upside down, the networking doesn't work. Huh. It shouldn't matter, but very few are implemented properly. Isn't that interesting? I wonder if it's the cable or the port. Because I know I've bought some USB-C cables that were only wired on one side. You had to plug it in the right way or it wouldn't charge. I use them for charging cables, because my SL2 will charge with USB-C. And the charge cables, you know, the simple, cheap ones at the gas station or whatever, they're only wired a lot of times just to one side. I think there's one that's halfway decent for one monitor. Send me a message on Instagram or Facebook to remind me, and I'll put my test M1 Pro MacBook Pro on a few and let you know. I will forget that thought of getting one. What I do, honestly, Ron, to run a second monitor, well, you have the one, most likely it's got a bunch of USB-C ports. You know, you need the dock's got the HDMI port on it, and that way you can run a second monitor. If that's what your goal is to get, just get the little dock thing, and it gives you an HDMI port, and then you can do it like that. And from what I understand, that's what all the people that had that version do. Mine are so old, they actually have a HDMI port as well, so you can just plug a monitor straight in. If you want to run two monitors, you have to run a Thunderbolt adapter so you don't use up all your USB ports. Mine have USB 2.0, mine or 3s. They're the blue ones. It don't have USB-C. It's too old. Let's see. The 2015 MacBook Pros are fantastic. Really solid, reliable, stable, well-built machines. I sold mine and got a 2019 and have regretted it ever since. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I got two of them at the same time. One for work and one for personal. And I got them loaded out with RAM, with the best video cards that they could have, which come to find out ain't a video card. It's just the GPU chip and the memory modules that go with it, and they're soldered straight to the motherboard that's in the camera in the computer. And the motherboard is kindly small. It's like they've got that crap miniaturized, but yeah, it's got, I think they're Radeons. who makes the Radeon stuff. It ain't NVIDIA. That's the green team. It's the red team. But they're Radeon video cards or video chips. They're not. It's not a card, but they work good. My goal is more USB-C ports. Okay. Ray, David, I sent you a link to the audio-visual rack that you need to keep all your radios organized and easy to work on. Oh, boy. Let's close this. Let me see. You probably sent that through. Yep, there it is. Legend. Let's see what we got here. Legend audio-visual. Well, yeah, this looks nice. Let's just share that with the group. This is pretty serious stuff. Okay. Let's see. Oh, it's fully modular. It's got rollouts. Like it telescopes out. And pivots. I get it now. Yeah, this section. Let me get off of it. Let's see. Yeah, you can see where the section pivots out and then spins. That's interesting. Slide out rotating rack series. Wow. I can only imagine what this costs. How much weight can it bear? Let's see. Usable depth. Weight capacity. What? Holy moly. 250 pounds. That's crazy. I was thinking more of a static, like, shelving unit design. I understand the whole pivoting part, but I would have to have the cabling set up in such a way that there's enough excess cable to be able to pivot it around. Wow, that's pretty sweet. Nice. Thanks for sending that over. The hat says, I believe you're right. It's the cable that's the issue. The problem is this wasn't a cheap breakout box, so I'd expect it to work probably for what I paid for it. I feel you there. Sometimes I buy the high-end cables because I want the nice braided ones. Right. This is a micro USB, and you can see it's the braided cable. This cable has lasted literally like 6 years, and it works perfectly all these years later. I charge the DJI Osmo Action with it. My power bank charges off micro USB. 2 or 3 other things. I'd use this to charge it. And this thing works, and it has given me zero trouble all these years later. It's a really nice cable. Doesn't have a brand on it. Yeah, it does right here. Power cell. That's what it says. But it works. It works really well. Like I said, I've charged so many devices over the years with that little green cable. Just a few more USB-C options. Maybe a few USB-A. My MVP MacBook Pro has HDMI, but I use the adapter to display port for the external monitor. I'd use that HDMI port, dude. It's epic on mine. Works like a dream. Oh, wow. The rack is epic. Yeah, it is. And that's what I do every day at work. Oh, Lord. Oh, we have finally dropped some frames. It says I've dropped 133 frames. It's not currently dropping frames, but it has dropped some at one point for some reason. I don't know why. I just looked down to check it, and that's only a few seconds worth, so that's probably why it hasn't been a problem. We use those in a lot of cabinets to hide all the audio-visual equipment. Yeah, I can see how. You can pull it out, spin it. Whew, excuse me. That would be awesome. One of those racks would save me a lot of head injuries messing with studio wiring and hand injuries. Yeah. Pull it out, turn it around, do what you need, and spin it back, slide it back in the case. Yeah. I should use the HDMI port, but I heard it was not as good as the display port. I use mine for it, and it works like a charm. That's what I have. I have I don't remember, a 27-inch monitor, 30-inch monitor. I don't know. It's a pretty big one. They're pretty cheap now. And I've got it set up and over to the side, and I've just got an HDMI cable plugged straight into it. It works like a charm. Like I said, I've got my Thunderbolt port converted to a LAN cable. It's a little adapter. Plugs a LAN port into it, and that's how I get my internet. Yeah, it won't hurt it. Give it a shot. If it don't do like you want, you can always unhook it. Cables are cheap. You probably have one. I know I did. I had to go. The Z50 has the micro HDMI connector on it. It's a small camera, so, okay, I get it. I have it set up. Let me see if I can get this cable loose. I can show you. Yeah, here we go. Come on. There we go. I have the micro HDMI cable, and then I have this Velcro-y strap thing on it. And what I do is there's it's the sling mount, the little key ring looking deal on it. I run this through that ring and then back around the cable and then lock it off to hold the cable weight off of the port, to hold the cable up. And that way it doesn't strain the port, since it stays plugged in as a streaming camera like that all the time. The SL2 has a full HDMI port, so I had to go get a different cable to be able to hook it up today. It took me a few minutes to find one. Ron says, I do a lot of photo editing, just concerned about color rendition. Yeah, everybody, if you haven't done it yet, you need to Google search Ron Durant Photography. He actually sells his prints, unlike me, who just takes pictures and then sticks some of them on his website and the rest of them on a hard drive and doesn't attempt to actually sell them. He actually has a bunch of images for sale, so he wants correct color representation when he does his edits, so when he does a print, it's the right color. And that makes sense. I completely understand your reasoning for that. And then they're talking about the display port and HDMI, and I wish display port went out for home electronics over HDMI, for the simple fact that HDMI is the patent says it can't have a built-in cable locking into the port. Display port can. Oh yeah, it doesn't have a latch. That's true. I never realized that. I guess coming from an AV guy, that's a problem because stuff unplugs itself. Because this HDMI cable here doesn't have a latch. But yeah, some of them you actually have to push a little button to release it so you can unplug it. Yeah, that didn't even occur to me till you said that. That's cool. There's been a lot of good information transpired in this chat tonight. But I'm going to jump over to this. What's been everybody's experience with the kit lens for the Z50 if you've used it? This it's a 16 to 50 millimeter, and it locks down for low profile storage, and then you unlock it till it clicks, and then that's the stop point for 16 mil, and then you zoom it out to 50. You can see that it does a variable telescope for the different focal lengths, but it's a tiny little lens, so it doesn't take up much space, and it's made of plastic, so it's not heavy. That's the reason I like this. This lens is going to serve me well for my general photography lens, especially since the fact that it has 16 millimeters. That means it's 24 mil on full frame. That's wide. Now, of course, it goes to 35, which is a 50 millimeter field of view, and then 50 is like telephoto. That's almost portrait. I mean, that's going to give it 75 millimeter effective, roughly. It's all. Now, the field of view is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about actual zoom. You're not actually zooming. That's a fallacy. It's the field of view against the sensor you're looking at. You know, if you have a 20.9 megapixel sensor, someone done the math. I'm pretty sure that a 20.9 megapixel sensor scales up to a 45. It's got the same resolution. It's just, you know, you got 16 by 24 millimeters of square real estate versus 24 by 36 millimeters of real estate. Let me see here. Yeah, let's just jump over to that, and we'll math that out. If you do 16 times 24, you have 384 millimeters of space. That's crop sensor. Now, you do 20.9, nope. Clear 20,900,000 pixels divided by 384 square millimeters is 54,427 millimeters or pixels per square millimeter. It's incredible. Okay. Now we have to remember that number. 54,427. I'll write it down. 54,427. Okay. Now we clear that, and we do 24 millimeters times 36 millimeters times 54,427 for the pixel density. Scaled up, it's a 47 megapixel sensor. That's how that works. You can see over here on the sidebar mathematics. I figured out the square millimeters and then took the 20.9 megapixel sensor size of the Z50, come up with 54,427 pixels per square millimeter. Figured out how many square millimeters is in a full frame, multiplied it by the number of pixels per square millimeter, and that's how you figure out how big the sensor would be. Basically, the Z50 sensor is a cut down D850 sensor. That's what you're looking at. Okay, so when you put on a crop sensor lens and it says 35 millimeter, you're not zooming to 50. Okay, you're not. You're still at 20.9 million pixels, and it's casting an image that would have fit a full frame sensor, but you're only seeing the center of the image, so it looks like you're zooming in. It's the equivalent field of view, which is what the lens could see against a crop sensor. That's the difference. And there's a big confusion about that out there. And people say, if you need more reach, well, you're not reaching further. You're really not reaching further. You're still exposing the sensor with a 500 millimeter phase Fresnel lens. You're not exposing it with a 750 millimeter lens. I'm not. I'm taking a 500 millimeter image and I'm cropping it down to APS-C. That's what's happening. Let's be realistic. It's not the same. If you had a 750 millimeter lens and put it on the same camera, I would see a lot more in that little APS-C zone. It's a different thing, That's why I always say field of view, because that's what it really is. Ron says, Phil Thatch liked his Z50 and 16 to 50 lens. Yeah, it worked really well for him. Whoops. Oh, I got to fix my chair. It's starting to sink. There we go. It's one of them little pneumatic lever things. I tried to do it a while ago, and then apparently I could feel it like going slowly sinking down. I need to get a new chair. The finish is coming off of it, and I'm just cheap, not wanting to spend money. Yeah, let's see. Oh, Lord. Ray's talking about multi-stream transport and talking about daisy chaining monitors. And wow, that makes my brain hurt. Learn something new every day. Yeah, no kidding, Ron. Well, time to GMCO tap UTC wrestling match in a few, so nice and easy seating photography. He's going to get his camera out and take a picture, is what he's saying. He's got a wrestling match to go photograph with the Z9. Thank you, Ron or Ray, for stepping in. They cropped the D850 sensor to get that size, thus crop sensor. Yeah, not Ray. But yeah, so, you know, this is a nice field of view. And the lens, seriously, it just weighs grams. And, you know, I would say it's probably 100 grams, maybe 150. It don't weigh much. It's super light. And I like the lens collapse for storage thing that they've been doing with them. This is not an S lens, I'm pretty sure. No, it's not. The kit lens is not S. Is it? I'm sure it ain't. No, it ain't. Well, I had the 24-70 f4S, and it did the same thing. And that lens took stunning photos. I kind of wished I hadn't sold it. It would have been a great lens for the Z50. You know, that was a mistake on my part. That was a wonderful lens. I had the 85 f1.8, and I never used it. Unfortunately, I had that lens forever and shot photos with it just a couple of times. I had been, just to give you a little backstory on why I never used that 85, I had been shooting with the Fujifilm X-T3 and 50mm to 55mm vintage lenses for way over a year. I'd been using them 50s for at least a year and a half or so. I'd been using them a lot. And I thought when I got that Z6, I thought, well, the 85 is about the same field of view as those 50s on the XT3, so I'll just get that, and it'll be the same exact image, you know, display that I'm used to seeing. But I didn't do that. I used that 24-70 a lot, and then I started adapting older lenses to it, and I would just rack out the 24-70 to 70mm and just shoot it there, and I never used that prime. And it sat basically unused for about a year and a half. Long time, maybe 2 years. I had it a long time and never shot with it. And I finally just sent it to Robert's Camera. And they gave me a good bit of money for it since it was basically brand new. But yeah, it was weird how I just decided I wasn't going to use it. I don't know. That was just strange. Hassan says he uses the 16-50. That's what this is, isn't it? Yeah. I'm going to use it next week. I'm going to finally hook it up to the camera and take some pictures with it. So we'll see what I get. Pretty sweet little lens, that's what Hassan says. And when George Nagata came down, he has used his Z50 so much, he's rubbed through the finish to the, like, plastic framing and stuff. Like, the color is worn off in lots of places. He has shot with that camera a lot. He has got his money worth out of his little Z50. He has took so many photos with it. Carried that camera so much. It's crazy. I swear to you, this chair feels like it's sinking. I've took my feet off the floor to see if I can feel it dropping. I think I'm moving it. I don't know. It feels like it's going little steps. The hat says, I've always been a little wary of those collapsing lenses. I had one when I used to shoot on a Samsung camera. It got a very slight knock while extended and it killed it. Yeah. This one's pretty rugged. This one feels pretty tight. Of course, it's small and it's very compact, so you don't have a lot of extended weight. If you was to hit it on the front here, it would damage those helicoids that moves all that mechanism, and you would ruin it. It would be an easy thing to break. But even like my zoom lens on my Leica, my big 24-90, it's got a lot of lateral force you can apply to the way the lens is made because of the focus motors. Let me just show you. Get it out. It has 2 focus motors. This lens is huge and heavy, so they put 2 focus motors in it. Well, you can tell how much of the lens is used in focus motors when you zoom it out. Let me just pull it out here. See how much meat they had to take away to get down to the lens body? That lens has got, well, let me back it up. Let's see. If I don't want to mess with the focus. But you can see how much it's in, and it's got a little lateral movement. But it needs that to be able to do the whole racking in and out thing. So, but yeah, to focus this lens fast, it has 2 different linear motors in it. This lens takes stunning photos. It's super filthy right now. Oh, Lord. There's like chunks of stuff on it. We're not going to look at that. We're going to put this cap back on and we're going to set this down. That lens is desperately needed cleaning. We're using the Nikkor 24mm f2.8 AI lens that I've had forever. That's the video lens for tonight. We're about to hear the KG4WBI repeater ID. It IDs at the top of the hour. And he got it set as close to UTC as he could. So, let's see. I don't know what the deal is with the... Oh. Yeah, I got audio set. I had to get the... No, that means this needs to be... So where's the middle? Right about there. Okay, now we're back. The hat says, whoa, that's a chunky lens. She's a heavy girl. This lens weighs in, I'll be honest with you, it weighs in pounds. There's a lot of lens here. It's all metal construction. There's like practically no plastic in it anywhere that I'm aware of. It's solid. That might be a plastic cover right there over the electronics, but it's probably aluminum, truth be known. But it's heavy. It's all aluminum and glass. There's like 83,262 elements. Top of the hour. I'm gonna set the audio level. I turn off the squelch, set the audio level, turn the squelch back up. But yeah. It's kind of nice to be able to, it's like an audio clock. You don't have to be looking at it to hear what time it is. It's kind of cool. Ron says, my D500 paint is wearing off of some of the buttons. Mine was starting to wear off the text on the buttons on the left side of my D810 before I sold it. I hadn't wore through any of the color on it yet, but it was like, yeah, several of them buttons were just smooth, shiny black. They didn't have the silk screening on them anymore. This one, I haven't used this one enough to wear off the text on it. It turns into, like, when it's a video camera, I don't interact much with it, and I do the touch screen to do changes. So, like, let's see here. Like, it'll go into display, you know, and I'll toggle through the displays, or I'll go into the I menu and set stuff. You know, that happens a good bit. A lot of times, release mode, continuous low, single shot, okay. I like this little screen for doing these kind of changes. It's real handy to me. Then, you know, when I'm taking photos, I don't need but like the shutter, the ISO, and the exposure compensation are right here together, which is where they should be. The D810, they failed that, and they put the ISO on the other side of the camera, requiring a second hand to make ISO adjustments. So I remapped the video record button so that when you were in photo mode, it was the ISO button. So I could literally come off the shutter, hit the ISO, and run the thumb wheel, make ISO changes. That was a solution I made for the D810 back in the day. The hat said, I ended up sending back my cheap Fuji XC kit lens and swapped it for the XF 18-55 2.8-4 as I wanted something a bit more solid. The XF is a nice sturdy lens and lovely optics. The kit lens that come with the XT3, I don't remember. It was like 18-55. It wasn't the 16 millimeter, and it was variable aperture too. I think it was 2.8-4. I think that's what come with my XT3. I'm pretty certain that was the lens. It was variable aperture and it was 18. It wasn't, they make a 16 to 55 f2.8 constant aperture. I didn't have that one, but that was the one I shot my whole trip to Israel on, and the photos turned out wonderful. I took extra glass and never used any of it. It wound up. This is the lens you need when you go on a family trip. This is the lens you need. The kit lens was the one that I ended up leaving on the camera the whole time. Lugged that stupid camera bag around all that time and literally just used one lens almost exclusively. So that's why I pared this kit down for this trip. It's like I'm starting to learn what do you actually use, and just take that. Don't take all that other gear. Don't burden yourself with it. There's everybody my age, Gen Xers, you see a lot of Gen X, Gen Z, and all them millennials and all them kind of jokes, but I'm Gen X. I'm old enough. And Gen X grew up during the reliance movement. Like, everybody wanted to be self-reliant because their grandparents were self-reliant during the Great Depression. And that kind of skipped the generation, you might say, through their kids, because their kids grew up in plenty in the 50s and 60s. And then by the 80s, we had that little recession in the late 70s into the early 80s, and people started wanting to be self-reliant again. So I remember my mom and dad growing a huge 2-acre garden, and I had to go hoe the stupid corn after high school every day and all that garbage, and hated it, but I learned a lot. And that whole mentality got imprinted in our whole generation, so we carry all this equipment we don't need. And it's because we want contingencies. We want to be able to make sure that if we drop this camera and destroy it and a semi runs over and squishes it, we can reach in the bag and pull out another one and keep shooting. The reality is that happens so rarely that we end up lugging all that gear around for nothing. Just for nothing. So I'm dumping all that gear. I'm going to go super light. One camera body, 3 lenses, covers everything from 10 millimeters to 500. 3 lenses. And honestly, I'm skipping a huge range in the middle. I'm taking 10 to 20. And what's the second one here? 16 to 55. 16 to 50. So I've got 10 to 50, and then I'm jumping to 500. I have nothing in between, because I never take any like family trip photos or trips with me and my wife Teresa. I never take any pictures at 200 millimeters on those trips. I might do a portrait of Teresa, but honestly, 50 millimeters is actually equivalent field of view of 75. That's a portrait length. I'll use that. It'll do just fine. I mean, it's incredible. The longer you do this, it's like I had to learn the hard way through that whole over-prepared phase to get to the point to where I'm like the current young generation who's grew up without having that whole mentality placed in their head of just take what you need. It's took me years to get back to that. It's crazy. The hat said just adds to the patina. That's a good one. Hassan, are you still here? I'm curious to see if you've left the chat. Is the 500 on that Z50? Yes, Ron. This is the 500 millimeter phase Fresnel with the Nikon Z50 and the FTZ adapter. That's the whole kit. 500 millimeters. That's why I bought it. The 70 to 200 f2.8 that I had for my D810 came to like here. It was almost as small as the 70 to 200 f2.8 was. Now this is a f5.6, so it's it's a couple of stops slower than that. You go to 2.8 to 4, 4 to 5.6, yeah. So it's 2 stops slower, but I don't see that as a problem. I shoot in the daytime. I don't shoot super early morning, so I don't normally have problems with low light issues. So this is enough. And the ISO on the Z50 is reasonable. It works okay. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. Good, Hassan. I was just curious because I hadn't seen you make a comment in a while. But yeah, that's the whole thing. That's what I fly with. And look at this. It fits kitted in the pack with a 500 millimeter mounted. There's your 10 to 20. The 16 to 50 goes in this little tiny hole here. I have a rocket air, charger, memory cards, batteries are floating around in this pocket up here, and that's all of it. That's the whole kit. I still have room. I have pockets that ain't being used. That's a first for me. This backpack is super comfortable. This is the retrospective 15 liter. It's a 15 liter pack. It's not, I saw the other day, I think Mark Denny did a video and he bought a new backpack and it was a 50 something liter. 50. Like over 3 times the volume of this thing. And it's got a huge pocket on the front. This is a wonderful bag. This is Think Tank Photo. I really believe in Think Tank Photo and who makes the Everyday Messenger? Peak Design. I'm really big into their gear. I've had this bag literally almost 10 years. And it's starting to show its age here and there. There's a couple places. Like you can see this strap here starting to get some little fuzzies on around the mount. You can see it. There you go. But the bag is still in great shape. I mean, it's still in wonderful condition. There's a rivet got pulled out of the back, but all in all, the bag looks great to be as old as it is. But yeah, I get my money's worth out of my bags. I like Peak Design. I like I said, Think Tank Photo. I've got several of their bags, and I love them all. I've got a airport whatever right there that I haven't used in quite a while for airport use. It's a roller bag. It's meant to fit in overheads. Then I've got this Streetwalker 2.0 whatever right here. It's got a ham radio in it now. I got a bunch of Think Tank bags. They're great. You can't hardly kill them. That's the magic of the Think Tank Photo. But yeah, I like this one because it ain't the black nylon. I wanted the cloth. And the key was it opens from the back. I wanted that mainly because now my other Think Tank bag, that Streetwalker, you lay this side down and you open the front. Well, when you lay this on the ground, it gets dirt and mud on it. And then you put that against your clothes. I wanted it to where it laid down on the pack and this part didn't get dirty. And I thought, man, that's genius. So yeah, the retrospective 15, backpack 15. And this is the one I wear when I fly. If it don't fit in this pack, I don't take it. It just don't need to go. Everything I need will fit in this bag for whatever I'm going to shoot. Yeah. I don't take, big 600 F4s. I don't have any of that. So with that phase Fresnel, it fits perfectly. When I even had it on the Z6 in there for a while. The first year I went to Costa Rica, I had the Z6 on that and the FTZ on that 500, and it'll fit in that pack. I have to maneuver the little dividers a little. I have to manipulate them a little bit, but it'll go in there kitted up. Works good. Yeah, Hassan, I saw Leica just announced the new 30 and 50. Not impressed. They're aspheric, but let me see. Ow, just poke my eye on the light. I have a big LED light panel right here. Let's see. This one is 50 millimeter. Whoop. Let's see if I can do this. Which way does it go? Does it go this way? Yeah, there you go. As you can see, 50 millimeter Summicron L aspheric. Oh, there we go. That's in focus. Apo Summicron. This is apochromatic. If you haven't ever, let me push that back to me. Let's see, right about there. Looks pretty close, don't it? Apochromatic means it's apochromatic corrected. They take all 3 of the colors and they adjust lens elements in the lens manually, from what I understand, and align those colors to eliminate apochromatic distortion, which is chromatic aberration. So this is like the least chromatic aberrated lenses ever made, is these SL lenses. They're like the cream of the crop. And The new ones are made, they're different. They don't have quite the tech in them that this lens has. So they're significantly cheaper. For a 50 millimeter f2, that's what this is, a 50 f2. This lens is $4,000 new. It's ludicrously expensive. I bought it second-handed and got it significantly cheaper. But yeah, new, these lenses are insanity. This lens takes stunning photos, by the way. Like, stunning photos. If you want like super laser sharp images, them aspheric SL lenses are the magic, the Apo Summicrons. But yeah. Have a good evening, everyone. I need to get off here. Thanks, Dave, for going live tonight and for the radio up. Yes, sir. Let me know if that works. I'm curious to know. Talk to y'all soon. Let's see here. How long have we been running? We have not dropped any more frames since I saw them 133 that went down. We're still at that 133 frames. We've been running a live stream for an hour and 35 minutes nonstop. That's crazy. It's got a lot of data down here at the bottom. It's interesting, but whoops, don't make that mistake. Let me see here. All right, I just sent my web link to the chat. I don't know if it's actually clickable or not. I really don't know. It gave me 3 buttons, dots, but I clicked it and it didn't do anything. Oh well. But that's my website, and on my website I now have 2 blogs I've been writing to here lately. I've been doing that more than making videos, and it's not because I don't want to make videos. It's because I'm not inspired to make videos here lately. I don't want to make videos just to create content anymore. Okay? I want the video to actually be about something. For a while there, I got to where I didn't want to do reviews because I didn't want to become an equipment reviewer. That was never my goal. I did a bunch of review videos to basically get the view time up and all of that to where basically it generates a small stream of income. I think I make like $50 a month from my ad revenue. And what my goal was to do enough lens reviews over a couple of year period that I would generate that kind of slow burn video growth, whatever they call that, and get that little residual money coming in. But what I didn't learn or didn't realize when I started to do it was now the YouTube algorithm sees my channel as a gear review channel. And when I post videos that aren't gear reviews, it doesn't really go anywhere. So now I'm in a quandary. What do I do? Good night, Scott. Thank you for dropping into the chat. I really appreciate you stopping by for the stream. So what I've been trying to do is think of value-added videos that I can actually do that brings something to the table that makes it worth your guys' time to watch. And so if I go a long period of time without uploading anything, it's because I'm trying to come up with something that makes sense, that doesn't just make content to add to the pile of stuff that YouTube gets every day. They already get enough content, and it's just noise. And I would rather do something that's more valuable. Like this live stream, we're interacting. And that gives you a little something. You know, you get to talk to me direct. You get to ask me questions immediately, and I'll answer them right then. And it has its own value proposition. And I'll move this up here. But no, I don't like it there. I'm going to move it back. But the whole idea that to just pump out videos for the sake of making videos, I'm over it. I can't do that. I tried it for a while after I was kind of laid off the gear reviewing stuff, and I just felt empty when I do them. I was just making videos to make videos. I go up and do street photography vlogs where I just hooked the camera on the video camera onto my stills camera and walked around and just took pictures of stuff while I walked, and it's just like, I don't know. John Traverna, John Trevina. My Bluetooth headphones all gave out on me, and I'm always out and about when I tune in. But you're here, so good. But yeah, that's why you don't see me regularly upload here lately. Ever since last summer, I decided I'm going to make videos that actually have some kind of value, or I'm not going to make them. So, you know, if you look back over the last 6 or 7 months, you'll see that. You know, it's about like where I go to maybe Stevenson, Alabama, or I did a photo walk in Trenton, my hometown here, or I actually reviewed a lens just a couple weeks ago. I did that 35mm f/0.95. That lens is shockingly good. For $200 retail, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. At wide open, it does have a little distortion, but it kind of has a cool look to it. It's a cool little lens. It's currently, where is that camera? It must still be in the truck. Maybe I didn't bring it in. It's not in here. I don't see the camera bag. Yeah, I have a little shoulder bag. I don't remember who makes it that I have that camera in. It must still be in the truck. But it's on the SL2, and I have that lens on it because that lens gives me another 1 1/3 stops of light over an f1.4, which I have right here. I think this is the 35-1.4. Let's see. Yeah. That's the APS-C 35 f1.4, and I've added a little tiny lens hood to it. If you take this lens hood off, it's a tiny little lens. When you're going to an APS-C sensor, f1.4 doesn't have to be very big. So it does save you a lot there. There we go. But I've got the f/0.95 version, and it ain't much bigger than this. It's about the size of the lens mount, straight out, and about that long. I finally got a lens hood for it from Amazon, but it takes beautiful photos. If you stop it down to f1.4, it's perfect. But it's all manual. So you have to enjoy manual glass, or you ain't going to enjoy using the lens. Just the way it is, you know. But I love manual glass. I shot down in Tampa, Florida with it for a month straight and loved it. It took wonderful photos. Well, do you guys have any questions for me? I haven't really done a Q&A much. That is Industar F50-F2 size. Yeah, it's out in the truck. I have the 17mm f1.4, and it's a little bit bigger around, but it's about the same footprint. It's a tiny little thing. You know, if you shoot APS-C cameras, you may as well get the APS-C glass and get rid of all of that excess glass that the full frame lenses have. That's the beauty of APS-C, is the lenses are smaller because you only have to cover a small sensor area. You know, you're only covering, well, if you looked at the square millimeters from earlier, about 1/3 the actual square footage. Let's see if I go back and go up here, you cover, instead of 864 square millimeters, you're only doing 384. So let's just see what that comes out to. 864 divided by 384. Yeah, it's 2¼ times bigger to cover an 864mm sensor. So, you know, that's the beauty. That's why these lenses can be so small. They're covering a much smaller sensor. So yeah, I use this lens a lot. And in my review, if you haven't watched the review yet, you'll see the knurling here and here. This is the aperture ring. The aperture ring's on the front. Sorry about bumping the mic there. On the front of their manual lenses, and the focus ring is in the back. And on this one, you can just grab it and pinch. You kind of catch the edge of that knurl with your hand, but this whole band in between the two is the focus ring. You can see it telescopes the lens out as you turn it. Well, it's easy. This is like real intuitive to use. And on the new one, they did the knurling different to save on probably machine time and potentially scrap parts, because of the whole, that straight line knurling is kind of tough to do. They milled it on the big focus ring, but on this one, it looks like it's actual straight line knurling. They milled little dishes into the other one, and it's smoother. it doesn't have the tactile feedback that these do. It doesn't have the grip on it, or it ain't as grippy, if that makes sense. But it doesn't slip. It works fine. You just kind of got to get used to the different feel. But yeah, they're wonderful lenses. I love these little TT Artisan lenses. This one, I bought this 35 f1.4 brand new off eBay for like $75, shipped to my door. Shipped $35 or $75 for a 35 f1.4. That's big glass for $75, brand new, and it ain't bad. It's shockingly good for what you're paying. Wow, that's Hassan says, yeah, seriously considering an XT5 and the 16-80. I'll be honest with you. If you have an XT3, don't you, Hassan? I'm pretty sure you do. If you do, the XT5 does have the same articulation on the lens or on the screen. The XT4, it went away from it and it went to more of a like this Z50 screen does, where it just tilts out or whatever. It tilts down and up to where the XT3 had that deal where it kicked up at an angle, so you could like get down low, like you could squat down and shoot from ground level, and you could still see the display, so you could compose and shoot without having to like get your head down at the ground. Well, the XT5 brought that back. But honestly, unless you just want the extra megapixels, I'd stick with the camera you got. The XT3 is a beast of a machine. I think it's like 26 megapixels. That's a lot of information in a small package. That's a great camera. I would get the lens. That 16-80 is a nice general purpose broad spectrum lens that would cover like any kind of general photography. One lens, one camera. The hat says, makes sense. I was surprised at how compact the Fuji 35 f2 is compared to the 35 Takumar. Yeah. You know, it's, well, here you go. Equivalent apertures and fields of view. I got to take this lens hood off so you can kind of see. Take this lens cap off. This is a 50mm f1.4. This is a 35mm f1.4 APS-C. Same equivalent fields of view, pretty much. But look how much bigger the full frame lens has to be to give you the same aperture and the same equivalent field of view. You know, it's like, yeah, here we go. I have an M mount lens. Like a M mount is very similar. This is a 35 f1.4 M mount lens. And I have the M adapter L on it so that I can put it on the Leica, and they're about the same size. Actually, the M mount lens is smaller. Let's see, if I line up the mount flanges, it's a little bit shorter. There. But they're both, this is full frame though. Bear that in mind. The full frame lens is actually about 3/16, quarter inch shorter. And you can see how the glass is a little bigger because it is full frame, because Leica M's are full frame cameras. But since it's a rangefinder, the lens is actually closer to the film plane. And because it's closer, the lens can be made smaller because of the way the projection works. It's really neat to see how that works. But yeah, the M mount glass is where it's at, where you get that magic. Because once you get into the standard mirrorless, you have to move the lens further away, and that's when the stuff starts to get a little bigger and longer. But yeah, it's cool. But yeah, Hassan, if you really want that 40 megapixels from that XT5, go for it. The cameras apparently are producing insanely good results. Put this back on the shelf back there and set this in back up here. That Voigtlander 35 f1.4 takes beautiful photos. I just can't get used to that tabbed focus deal. I was shooting that on the CL before I had the TT Artisan, and it takes beautiful photos. It does a wonderful job, but if you're not used to that deal right there with that tab on it where you focus it with just one finger. And the problem is it's not so much the focus as, I don't know if you can see it. If I can get the light right on it, you can. Let me see. Yeah, and right about, let me get the focus tab out of the way. So let me shine it with it. There. Yeah, on the other side. You see that little band sticking out right there? That's the aperture tab. There's one on there and there's one on this side. And I can get the light to hit it right there. Yeah. And that's what you adjust aperture with, okay? Well, they're not equally spaced. I don't know if you can tell it. It's kind of hard to show, but they're there and there. They're not evenly spaced on the lens, and there's not a third one on top. So I guess you're meant to just catch it with your finger and make aperture adjustments. But I kept missing this, and I would make focus adjustments instead, making an aperture, because if it's all the way around here and this is there, they're together, and you can actually grab the focus band and turn it and move the aperture too, and it screws you up. You have to practice with this lens to get good at it. It works. It takes stunning photos to be a tiny little compact lens, but yeah, it was kind of frustrating to use. I want to get the newer 35 f2 Leica lens that'll fit that M adapter L, because it gives you some functionality back. I could get into that, but I'm not going to right now. That'll be a different day. The M adapter L from Leica actually talks to the camera, and it enables some functions with some of the controls on the camera that you don't get if it ain't installed. So like I've got this is just a dummy lens. It's a full manual, no electrical contacts whatsoever. It doesn't communicate to the camera at all. All right, when you mount this lens, the camera thinks it's shooting without a lens. So it disables a bunch of functions, and with that M adapter L, it has a chip in it, and it talks to the camera and tells it some stuff. And if you have a 6-bit coded Leica lens, it'll tell it what the focal length is, so you can have EXIF data. But it also enables it enables some functions. But that's like I said, that's a different day. Put that back too. But yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to the Z50 only trip. I have 4 batteries. I have a double battery charger. I have 3 lenses. It should be a good trip. So with that, I'm going to sign off, guys. We have run 1 hour and 52 minutes into this stream. It's been a lot of fun. I'm kind of glad we've dropped 191 total frames. It says I hit another hiccup somewhere along the way, and I dropped 60 more frames. That's about 3 seconds worth of footage from what I understood. Last time it was dropping frames, that was about 3 seconds. So yeah, there was a stutter somewhere in there that I didn't catch. 191 frames in a whole stream. That was literally no telling how many tens of thousands of frames long. Let's see. I'm going to do some math. It's got me curious now. Let's see here. We got 30 frames per second times 60 seconds in a minute equals that, times 60 seconds equals an hour. That's 108,000 frames an hour. And I am at 1 hour and 53 minutes. So 53 divided by 60 equals 95,400. Huh? I done some math wrong somewhere. Oh, yeah, I added it in. Okay, and then so yeah, it's almost 200,000 frames. Actually, it's a little over 200. 108,095. Yeah, 200,000 frames. I dropped 191. Not bad. I can live with that. But yeah, I appreciate you guys stopping in and hanging out for a while. It's been a lot of fun. I've been wanting to do a stream for a while, but I've kind of been leery because of the issue the last time I tried it when I scheduled the stream and then it didn't go off like it was supposed to, and I gave up. So until next time, this is David, the Georgia photographer, and I'm going to tell you to get your camera that you attach these lenses to out and go take a picture with it. So until then, we'll see you later. Y'all take care. Bye-bye. Good night, Hassan. Thank you. Good deal, Hat. Thank you. I really appreciate the feedback. Yeah. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. Yes, sir. Thank you, Hat. Well, as soon as I get my mouse down here.